Ciao everyone, welcome back to another slow fashion video. Today I'm going to walk you through how to elevate fall outfits that feel either basic or just a little bit off. I'm gonna do this today with the help of two people, my past self, by taking old outfits where I made some styling decisions that could be improved upon, and my friends over at Cézanne. Because of all of the brands that I like and wear often, Cézanne is the one whose styling and flair inspire me the most. I've been working with Cézanne for a while now, very grateful, because I don't take on a lot of sponsors, so the ones that I do I tend to be quite loyal to, and this is how I manage my closet as well. When I find something I like, I tend to stick to it. Cézanne has a lot of core styles which I really like and which they repeat. This is really good from a slow fashion perspective because it means you are not feeling that sense of urgency to constantly buy. You can actually save up and wait for a piece. The construction and quality is excellent, and they are true to their aesthetic season over season. They're not trying to please everybody, and longevity and a strong point of view is really important to me. So that sort of overall aesthetic of classic with a twist is something that I really like. I just took on these Martin trousers, and when I flipped them inside out, they literally looked like, you know, those older vintage trousers that are so well made. I love seeing that. I've chosen some new items from their fall collections, and I'll be styling them with some of my previously gifted Cézanne items as well as items from my own closet. And as with all my sponsored content, I hope this introduces you to a brand that resonates with your values and your aesthetics. I'm going to leave everything that is available in the description box below, or versions of it from their core collections, and I'm excited to get into this video. Merci beaucoup, Cézanne. Before we get into the looks, there are three major mistakes that I continuously made, and I want to touch on those because creating a look that feels styled while still being authentic to you comes from making intentional choices and using elements of style, things like proportions, texture, color play, just to name a few. I noticed that over time, the silhouettes I loved always stayed the same, but there were three things that I consistently made some missteps on. And I'm not calling these mistakes or bad fashion or bad style because I think that just makes us feel bad about our choices in general, and fashion is fun and experimentational. The first thing that I wouldn't consider that made my outfits feel not so great was context. I would wear things and put outfits together just because they looked cool. I wouldn't consider if I would be comfortable, if it really represented me, or if it was appropriate for the environment that I was in. I wouldn't really consider how that combination made me feel in the context of that current situation. I just wanted to create an interesting look for the sake of it. My second mistake was I wasn't always paying attention to the proportions of my outfit. In a lot of these looks, both my vertical and horizontal proportions weren't really being balanced or paid attention to. That's not to say that balance in your proportions is always what you want, but it was very clear that I wasn't paying attention to the proportions of my body in relation to the proportions of my clothes. My third and final consistent misstep was appreciating and being intentional with my accessory choices. I was never really intentional or thoughtful about my accessories. It was always the afterthought. I truly never understood the power of accessories, and I didn't use them to their maximum effect. All right, let's take a look at this first outfit. Inherently, it's not a bad look. I still like it. However, the context is the first thing that jumps out at me. I remember purchasing that big burgundy floofy scarf because I saw it on another blogger and I thought it's a great fun way to keep me warm. However, at the time I was living in a small town, so it was out of context for my lifestyle, but also it was out of context for my personal style. I like things that are a little bit understated for everyday use, and this felt really forced, especially as I'm looking at the photo and I'm looking back on it now. now. I literally just took this photo because I wanted a picture with the scarf. Even the styling of the scarf feels forced and out of context for my personal style and my lifestyle at the time. The next thing that I'm looking at are the proportions. There's nothing wrong with the proportions in this look. I think they're pretty good. However, what I would do, I would swap out the denim for something that has a little bit more shape to create some more interest and balance out the strong horizontal lines in the shoulders of the jacket. I find a wide crop leg like my Le Crop Ecru from Cézanne balances out the strong shoulders really nicely. And I would also swap out the black merino sweater that I have underneath, which I still have and I still love and wear, with the cream Gaspard cardigan. This way we create some interesting vertical lines on the top half of my body. We're also creating some interesting color contrasts. So it's just creating a look that feels a little bit more intentional, especially because we've paired it down with the scarf. So the high contrast still makes it interesting. I would also change out the boots for my black tall boots because I like the way they disappear under the leg and they pull from the black in the jacket. And speaking of scarves, I would swap it out for the Gaston scarf from Cézanne. I've had this one for about a year, so they've updated the colorways a little bit, but they still have it in cotton with a really nice minimal print. And I like how this injects a little bit of color. It feels more understated, it feels a lot less fussy, feels a lot more me. This second look, context, huge. Why was I wearing this? When would this outfit make sense? I honestly cannot answer these questions. It was freezing that day. I was wearing a silk dress. Silk is actually quite warm. However, the super exposed neck, the bare legs, even with the patent boots, the teeny tiny moto jacket, I was being a not very smart Canadian here. So the first thing I would do to adjust that context would be to swap it out for a dress that is actually appropriate and still super sexy for chillier fall/winter weather. So I would swap it out for the Harper dress in navy, which is a new addition for me from Cézanne. I have a hard time with sweater dresses, but this one I love, and it's because of the slit up the leg. Also because it's adjustable. You know, I can adjust how much leg I'm showing. It's beautifully form-fitted. I think the mock neck is fantastic, but most importantly, the fabric blend is good. It's majority cotton. I think it's 42% cotton, 40-ish% merino. There are a few synthetics in there to give it a little bit of stretch, but the majority, as I mentioned, are those two natural fibers, which for me, especially from a keeping warm and being comfortable perspective, that's really important. So number one, this dress is so much better for everyday winter fall life, for when I still want to feel sexy. And I also prefer the proportions. I love a thigh-high boot. I will always wear them. And you'll see here what I did is I've actually kept the thigh-high. I've changed the color. Instead of that harsh patent, which is a lot for the eye, especially if we're thinking this is a look that we want to be able to wear day and night, that patent is really strong on the eye. So what I've done is I would swap it out for the Anaël boot in taupe. These are also new for me from Cézanne. I have no brown boots. They're the cuissards, so they go all the way up over the knee, my favorite boot silhouette, but also because this is a proportion that I favor. I love short hemlines all year round. I love my legs. So I like bringing that attention with the thigh high, and I like playing with the proportions here. We have some really beautiful vertical lines that are being created. You see with the high slit, then the cuissard underneath. So we have the line break at the top of the leg, but it's kind of being overshadowed by the sleek long lines of the dress. So we're switching out all of these horizontal lines that are being created by the hem of the jacket, the hem of the dress, the top of the boots. Like, I don't even know what's happening there. This look, the way we're updating it, is so much more sleek and measured and intentional. And as for the coat, I'm gonna keep those vertical lines going and add a higher contrast sort of car coat. This one is unlined, and that's exactly what I was looking for because a lot of my winter coats are very heavy because all I think is Canada winter freezing cold. But I travel often to like more temperate climates in the winter. I'm very lucky to do so, knock on wood. And And a coat without a lining is really beneficial for those in-between seasons and more temperate climates. So this is the Meteric coat, again, from Cézanne. I love the proportions that it's creating, these nice long lines. And I like that the contrast here is a little bit softer. We're working with blues and browns instead of light pinks and blacks. And then I would add a bag, because in this look I have no bag, which is also a lack of accessories and wildly out of context, so I would add a bag here. Okay, look number 3, not horrible in terms of context. It makes sense, it's warm, it's cozy, but let's look at the proportions for a second. I've got a lower waistline in a bright white pant. First of all, I love that I'm wearing white in the winter. I think it's great, but I don't like how I cuffed the ankles and had an ankle boot and then threw in like a weird turquoise sock. I think I know what I was doing. I think I was trying to play with the blue tones in there and then use the rest of the look as a neutral, which is fine. Like, I love what I was thinking. I really do. Like, well done for your playfulness and creativity. But visually, especially with the cobalt blue coat, there's just way too much for the eye to look at. And it's the proportions here. The colors are actually working really, really well together. I think it's because we've got so much going on down below. The printed boot, the patterned sock, the cuffed hem, like, oh my God. And then you throw on a big cobalt blue coat. Maybe someone else could pull off all of those elements together because they have the personality and the aura and the essence to do so. But me personally, that doesn't feel authentic or awesome to me. But what I would do to change up the proportions is, number one, I would go back to my high-waisted Le Crop in Ecru. So we get that lightness, we get the playfulness for winter, and I would add the NL boot underneath in taupe because I get extra warmth. They go all the way up the leg. So it's good that I have that roominess in the trouser to do so, and I can get that extra warmth. I also just prefer those proportions. I like how the boot, you know, disappears up the leg. I like creating vertical lines. I would keep my old sweater. I love that thing. So I would actually add this shirt. This is the Tomboy, also from Cézanne. So I would just add this underneath as a layer so that we get a little bit of that hit of color in a more understated way. I've since let go of that bright cobalt blue jacket because the combination of the oversized shoulder, it wasn't for me. The proportions, I like, the color is fantastic. It wasn't at all about the color or the silhouette. It was really about that oversized shoulder. I never felt quite comfortable or quite me when I wore it. And so I would swap out the coat for the Meteric coat simply because it creates those long lines. It's a little bit more understated, and I'm getting a lot of added warmth through the boots and the layers. Look number 4, I actually still quite like. I think the color palette is great. Even though it's a mid-rise denim and a skinny, I still don't mind the proportions there. However, overall, I do feel like it's missing something. It's missing a little bit of interest, even though we've got like pretty good texture play, pretty good colors. So what I would do here is swap out the jeans for the marten pant. This is a really beautiful wool trouser from Cézanne. I'm adding this because it's got great texture, it's a great color, and this silhouette is one that I have loved since my banking days. And I'm playing off of using those colors, the browns and the camels, but in the trouser, so as to get away a little bit from denim all the time and that silhouette, and to keep with the higher waistline, which is a proportion that, you know, even though the midline is fine, I still prefer the higher waistline as a personal preference when it does come to proportions. Unfortunately, I no longer have that silk blouse because it doesn't fit and I couldn't alter it, but I still love the texture play with the vest and silk. So I'm gonna swap out the silk blouse for the Clo blouse. This is an older piece that I've had for a while from Cézanne, but it's from their core collection, so you'll be able to find it easily. And then I would actually layer the vest with the terry jacket, also from Cézanne, just because it's the dead of winter. I would probably do the vest jacket combination to create a little bit more depth. To create depth, I think layering is such a great thing, and I like this whole monochromatic thing that we're doing here. So this would be just my updated take on this look. And then I'm trying to remember what shoes I had in this look, but because the marten trousers are that beautiful boot cut and they're a little bit long, I would go with a pump or like a pointed toe. I just love the way that looks with a boot cut. I think it's a beautiful silhouette, and this is definitely something where if I was doing a presentation on or needed to feel much more elevated, this is how I would update it. Also, I don't really have a lot of accessories in this look, so I would add a cool pair of earrings and some really great rings and of course a bag. Okay, I love this look in terms of the proportions and the silhouette that's being used. However, context is where things get a little bit confused. Like, I'm not really in a place in my life where I would wear this. That me was probably thinking like clubbing or going out maybe. But if I was going out and I wanted to feel really sort of sexy femme fatale, the only swap I would make would be to swap out those little baby shorts, which were actually like a really cool texture. They were like a waxed denim. So I also love the texture play that's happening here because those are my old patent leather pumps, which I still have, but I would update it just by swapping out those little shorts for my leather mini skirt. Feels a little bit more grown up, a little bit more sophisticated. We're still getting the texture play, we're still getting the silhouette, we're still getting those fun proportions. And I would even go so far as to say, because we're talking fall, I would do a really great sexy sheer tight, or if I want to be a little bit playful, maybe like a cute little sheer polka dot tight. So that way it still feels playful and sexy, but a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more understated. I would add a cool bag, and I would also add some really great rings and some really big earrings. My leather mini is the Harlow skirt that I've had from Cézanne for a little over a year now, and it's definitely become a staple for fall. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, if you learned something new. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget, I do have those links for you down below if you're interested in any of the Cézanne pieces or if you have a true wardrobe gap to fill. Merci beaucoup Cézanne encore pour être la commanditaire pour ce vidéo. Je suis toujours contente de travailler avec vous. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, your week, your night, wherever you're at. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next slow fashion video. Ciao!